everyone. I'm Jordella D'Souza, your host, and it's my pleasure to be having a very important conversation in learning and in education and training today. Digital burnout versus digital empowerment. On one hand, education technology has given us opportunities like never before: flexible access, personalized learning, and global reach. On the other hand, it has us staring at our screens more, it has us juggling multiple tools, and sometimes feeling more drained than empowered. I have with me here today a very valuable voice in the space, Kanchan Shine. Hi, Kanchan.
Hi, Jordella.
How are you doing today?
Wonderful.
Are you ready to dive into the world of EdTech with us?
Sure, let's go for it.
Kanchan, have you seen learning outcomes change in organizations and in institutions when they've adopted education technology?
Absolutely. EdTech, when used thoughtfully, can be a real game changer. Think of it like, giving everybody superhero powers. I could give you a cape, but if it's the wrong cape, instead of flying, it's probably just going to, pluck you down. So it's very essential that when we use EdTech, when we use technology to augment education learning experience, we really mindfully design and integrate it, from a learning outcomes perspective. And I'll just give you an example. I have a 13-year-old son who's really good at maths. And so the school has this practice platform, and he, on a daily basis, homework is done on the platform. He comes, he does it, but he's not really motivated to do it because it's too easy for him, right? It doesn't challenge him. So it is technology, but it's not, helping him achieve his potential. So on the other hand, I got him an app that's really adaptive. It sees the kind of questions that he breezes through, and then it increases the difficulty level one notch. That's the true power of technology, right? So now he really is, imagine, technology being able to ascertain where he is and pushing him a level ahead. He feels motivated because these are harder questions, and it's like a challenge to solve, and he's spending more time practicing and upskilling himself. So yeah, if designed and used correctly, it can lead to great learning outcomes.
Wow, thank you for that and sharing your personal insights and personal experience as well. So, Kanchan, where do we draw the line between always accessible and always overwhelmed?
And that's the $1,000,000 question, Jordella, right? Just because we have access to it doesn't mean we have to or we should be online all the time. And this is something I always tell my kids. It's like we all have refrigerators at home, but just because it's open doesn't mean I wake up at 2 a.m. and go grab that ice cream, right? And that's the same thing with learning platform. Access is great, but when you take away the choice and it becomes something that I have to do, that's when the pressure or the feeling of overwhelm comes in, right? And but how do we fix for this? It's very simple. Always have your boundaries set, right? So when we are designing learning platforms, learning solutions, it's very important to use technology to define those boundaries and respect the non-online time, because accessibility should feel liberating and not suffocating.
Thanks for that, Kanchan. Liberating and not suffocating. I think it shows that autonomy and responsibility for both the users and the creators is really important. Tell me, Kanchan, do you have any examples where EdTech actually tipped over into burnout rather than empowerment?
The moment learners feel controlled rather than empowered, that's when burnout wins.
Okay, so it's so important to constantly have these balance and these checkpoints to ensure that we're not overwhelming them with information.
Absolutely.
And keeping into account their own time and their own time outside of learning.
Yep.
Not all hours online are created equal. So, Kanchan, I would love to hear from you. How do we separate screen time from learning time? What's your take on this?
Well, I agree, not all online experiences are equal. For example, 3 hours of doom scrolling versus 3 hours of Sudoku, perhaps, you walk away with very different experiences, right? So the key is in the kind of engagement that you are participating in. Screen time drains you and that happens specifically when you are consuming content without thinking. On the other hand, if you're spending time engaged in content that's making you think critically, solve problems, reason, challenging you, uh, that's a different experience, right? So one of the ways to just, a quick check is to, at the end of an online experience, is to ask yourself, do you feel energized, or do you feel fatigued, right? And as learning designers, it's very important that we design to exercise the brain and not keep the eyes busy.
Okay, all right. I'm definitely going to use that tip the next time, Kanchan. I find myself after hours of screen time, I'm going to ask myself if I feel energized or I feel fatigued. Thank you for sharing that tip with us. How do organizations design wellness aware learning strategies for the learners?
It begins with a shift in the mindset. We need to think human first and tech second. Learning should be delivered as small, healthy doses. Even a even a single prompt like, "Hey, Jordella, you finished 2 modules. Take a break, rejuvenate, or just do some stretches and then come back and resume," is a great way to tell you that you must pause, you must detach from the experience, take a break, and come back. And I've seen it, at home. When my daughter is studying, she sets a timer, and once the timer goes off, she'll get up, she'll go to the kitchen, make her cup of chai, sing her song while she's doing it, right? But that 5-10 minute break that she takes really brings her back much more refreshed and energized. So I think it's very important for us as learning designers to make breaks a part of the rhythm of learning and normalize the thought that rest is not an interruption, it's actually helping you progress towards your learning.
Thank you for that amazing insight, Kanchan, that rest is important to learning. I think that's lovely. This has been such a rich conversation. We've talked about autonomy and responsibility, how rest needs to be part of the conversation when we're talking about learning. Thank you so much, Kanchan, for sharing it. And are there any thoughts you'd like to share to conclude our conversation today?
I think, as just a parting thought, I would say tech isn't an enemy or a hero. It's how we use it, and how we design experiences. When we design learning effectively, it leaves learners feeling empowered rather than exhausted. Learning should, make you walk away not feeling burnt out or fatigued with on screen time, but rather, help you walk away with a feeling of, hey, I got this. Hey, I've just learned a new skill. And I think that's the power of technology and learning science put together. So I think we're in a very great place, and I'm quite excited about how in future our kids and the new generation is really going to learn.
Lovely. I'm here for it and I can't wait to experience some of those. Thank you so much, Kanchan, for your inputs and your time
Pleasure.
today.
It's pleasure is mine. Thank you so much for having me here.